Pianist of Constantinople Episode 1, Prelude to Destiny. The end of this journey was the unexpected Istanbul. Istanbul airport was crowded with tourists rather than Koreans. It was even more strange as I passed through the Istanbul airport security checkpoint. 10 years of being a pianist. 2 years worth of performances were packed. I only lived at home for about a month a year, always living a life as a lonely traveler. It was a destiny I chose myself, but I was slowly getting tired. Mannerism? That could be true. I just didn't want to admit it. I had declared that this day would never come to me. She was a perfectionist. She never forgot her absolute goal of being a pianist for a single day. And she whipped herself every time she faced the piano, the medium for that goal. A terrible practice bug. At first, out of the 24 hours in a day, except for a few hours of sleep, I spent almost all of my time practicing. Some days, I would practice so hard that I didn't see the sun for a whole week, and I would appear in front of the dazzling sun, pale and ghostly. Even if I didn't eat, I had to play the piano, and even if I couldn't pay my rent, I had to dream with the piano. It was a dream, a lover, a mother. The piano was like someone who was excited by measles. I longed for it and devoted all my golden youth of my teens and 20s. I had no regrets, because I was able to live the life I longed for so much. Wasn't it the life I had so desperately wanted? They say life is unpredictable, but when I became the best at the cost of the harsh years. As the world shouted for Jong Mi-soo, as the public admired Jong Mi-soo's dazzling hand movements as she drew ecstatic pictures on the piano, a dreary wind blew through my heart as if a hole had been pierced in my heart. I thought that a day like this would never come to me. Mannerism was someone else's business. I looked at those who talked about identity cynically as losers. My house was always without an owner, and I had become accustomed to unpacking and unpacking my luggage at the hotel for over 10 years. At some point, hotels became more comfortable, and the car ride to the concert hall felt more comfortable than my home. There was no country in the world I hadn't been to. Furthermore, the continent I moved around as if it were my own home was Europe. But Turkey was my first time. The more I thought about it, the more I became amazed. Istanbul was very welcoming. As expected from a tourist destination, I noticed a long line of people waiting to pass through the security checkpoint. They were of various races and nationalities. I could go straight through the VIP security checkpoint, which was set up for VIPs from each country, instead of waiting in line like them, so I waited for the staff in the VIP lounge. As they were leaving the airport, security guards and airport officials couldn't hide their excitement when they recognized them. "Wow, Mi-soo Jang, look here!" They were laughing and waving their hands vigorously. Even in the midst of their busy schedule, requests for autographs poured in. Surrounded by hundreds of people, Mi-soo's long and slender body could break at any moment. Director Jin looked at Mi-soo anxiously in the welcoming crowd. The current security force won't do, if it comes down to it. I'll have to jump in too. Director Jin worriedly looked at Mi-soo, who was walking briskly with her long legs after leaving the crowd. It was a hastily arranged schedule, so there was no time to promote it, but you're so popular. If you had scheduled a regular concert, the airport would have been paralyzed. You're so idol level, so popular. Director Jin entered the van half jokingly and half surprised, and as soon as he sat down on the chair, he blurted out his characteristically sincere joke. It was true. Mi-soo was surrounded by her manager and staff and quickly moved. As soon as she left the airport, she got on the van that was waiting. The sight of fans following her all the way out of the airport and waving their hands to the van Mi-soo and her party were riding in became distant. As soon as the performance in Greece ended, she boarded a flight from the airport to Turkey and arrived at Istanbul airport at 12 o'clock today. There were no concert schedules in Turkey. She was pressed for time because she had to forcefully make up a schedule that didn't exist. An hour later, we'll have an interview with TRT broadcasting station. Then we'll move to the concert hall after the interview, rehearsal, and then the 7 p.m. concert. In order to save time, director Jin, who had moved to the seat next to her in the moving car, was reporting the schedule in detail. They were going straight to the broadcasting station. They had to finish the interview with TRT, the Turkish public broadcasting station that invited Misu, first. The car stopped at a traffic light. Then, suddenly, what is it? Misu's eyes were drawn to the old building outside the window. She listened to the schedule report dryly and then stopped. That wall? It seems like a very old wall. The question trailed off. Director Jin, who was finishing the report, was organizing his tablet PC. Oh yes, it's the Theodosius wall. It's almost just the frame left. Director Jin, as if he knew about the old building, didn't even look at it and just stared at the schedule again and spoke absent-mindedly. Director Jin's indifferent words touched Misu's heart. Oh my, Theodosius wall? I went on a trip to Turkey once when I was a college student. I worked part-time during the vacation for a month to save up for the trip. I asked my mom to give me some more money. And I saved up the money and came here without thinking. When I was a college student, 15 years ago, quote. I still can't forget what the guide told me 15 years ago. Anyway, to enter the center of Istanbul, you have to pass through this city wall. I asked the tour guide about that city wall back then too. Director Jin was still talking. His eyes still glued to the schedule, carefully checking if anything was missing. Misu tried to shake off the strange feeling that was rising and turned her back to the Theodosian wall. On December 1st, Istanbul was experiencing a winter that felt like spring. The sky was so blue that it couldn't be called winter, reminiscent of the autumn sky in Korea. Time travel to the Middle Ages with the piano, Misu Jang 2022 FW European Piano Concert. This is a topic I discussed with the staff while preparing for the concert. When I first planned a concert with a story and when I finally achieved that dream, I couldn't hide my excitement and stayed up all night for several days. Thump! Thinking back to that time a few years ago, my heart still pounded. Ha! That might have been the peak compared to now when I am gradually cooling down. Why was I so nervous? Thinking back to that time while getting my makeup done, my heart started trembling again. You were chosen as the most popular classical musician I want to meet this year in Turkey. It must be hard to refuse. If all went as planned, Greece should have been the last performance venue today. Istanbul was definitely left out of the first staff meeting while the tour was in progress. Jin Siljang's words sounded like she was getting things done. She was a workaholic with great drive. And she was a pro at making things happen. She was planning to have the finale in Greece after going to England, France, Germany, and Austria, but somehow a Turkish broadcasting station found out about the plan and requested a performance by invitation from Misu, the agency. I almost had lunch as an airplane meal. Is that okay? You know I'll have a light meal on the day of the concert. It's fortunate that the broadcasting station is close to the airport, so I can save time. There wasn't a pen signing event in the original plan, but the local fans' response is so enthusiastic that I think we should hold the signing event for about 30 minutes. What do you think? He stopped walking for a moment in the hallway of the broadcasting station on his way to the interview location. He frowned. This was Misu's habit when he was worried. Director Jin looked up at Misu's face for a moment. Misu was 10 centimeters taller than him. Can't we just end it with the concert? If we have a pen signing event, tonight's flight will be postponed to tomorrow morning. You won't miss any other schedules? Misu answered honestly and ended it with a soft smile. Director Jin was checking the schedule again on the tablet PC he was holding. I have a day or two to spare. Let's try to make it so that it doesn't interfere with other schedules. He looked at Misu, who was accepting it obediently, with a surprised expression. Jin and Misu had been working together for a long time. The two were professionals. She asked Misu for her opinion, but things were going in that direction anyway. Misu had a habit that she had kept since she set out on her path as a performer. Not meeting anyone before and after a concert was not about adhering to mysticism. It was just a fastidious habit of thoroughly rejecting distractions before going into a concert, and it was also greed as a performer who wanted to focus only on the piano. She also didn't like the fact that she became lax while meeting fans and having autograph sessions. It was a secretly known fact among those in the art world that musicians had the most prickly personalities of all those in the art world. The desire to share a pure love without anyone interfering. You and me, that kind of purity without the public interfering. Love triangles are tiring. Here, you refer to the piano. It is Misu's long-standing habit of personifying the piano. I am also a big fan of yours who is interviewing you. I can't believe I can see Misu Jang. You are really beautiful. Your beauty was not even half captured on TV. Really? Thank you. Misu's interview began like this. I am jealous as a fan that you fell in love with the piano. Why don't you wear a dress like other female performers? Is there a special reason why you wear a black gown that looks like a medieval monk's robe? It may be rude, but it is one of the two questions that fans are curious about. To focus. I'm simpler than you think, so when I focus on one thing, I can't do anything else well. So I was worried that I might make a mistake wearing a dress. The other reason is, I'm a huge fan. I volunteered for the interview. I couldn't let someone else steal this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to interview Misu Jang. Ha ha ha, you surprised me twice. I can't believe you're my fan. However, his words were sincere. Just being able to see Misu Jang, the outstanding pianist of the era, up close like this made me feel proud of my job for the first time in a long time. The typical black eyes of Asians were mysterious and beautiful, like stars shining at night. The deep eyes that draw people in were unusually sparkling. Eyes reminiscent of black pearls. Ivory pearls on black velvet,